This is a person of extra special interest to the President of the United States. He's known her. Why did he send you down to talk to her?
He didn't send me. I went. What do you mean? You think President Trump called and asked me to go interview a witness in federal prison? Honestly?
Yes, I do, frankly.
Well,
because you know why?
He didn't.
Because the deal was in. He needed somebody he could rely. He needed somebody he could rely upon to talk to her and say, what would she say if she was asked about Jeffrey Epstein? And you were the perfect choice. And you went down there, and suddenly, shazam, she's out of what is a more confining situation into a much more relaxed federal prison.
You know, I have to give Senator Jack Reed credit. Whether you agree with every single point he made or not, this is exactly what congressional oversight is supposed to look like. Tough questions, direct questions, no political theater, just accountability. And today, Reed put Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche on the spot over some very uncomfortable issues involving Donald Trump, millions of Americans affected by the IRS leak, possible conflicts of interest, and even questions surrounding Ghislaine Maxwell. But before we continue, if you appreciate fact-based political analysis that puts country over party, subscribe to Olivia Hernandez and hit the like button. Serious discussions deserve serious audiences, and unlike some Washington hearings, nobody here gets 5 minutes and then runs away. Stay with me because later in this video, we're going to get into why Reed's questions about who controls this settlement money could become one of the biggest ethics stories in Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Blanche, how many taxpayers' returns were leaked by the IRS contractor in the 2020 breach?
How many taxpayers, excuse me?
How many taxpayers' returns were leaked by the IRS contractor in the 2020 breach?
I don't know the exact amount, but a lot.
405,427. One of them was Donald Trump, correct? One of them was Donald Trump, correct?
One of them was Donald Trump and his family or others, correct.
Right. And Donald Trump was president at the time.
Correct.
So it was his IRS department that allowed this breach of privacy, correct?
It was a criminal who worked in the IRS, yes.
Well, he was hired under Trump's administration. This is one of the Trump...
Well, there was a criminal breach that led to this, yes.
Very good. How many of these 400,000 people have received monetary reimbursement for the breach?
I don't think any have, including the president.
No, they haven't. But you've authorized the president. Do you agree the president should have reimbursement, correct?
No, we settled the case. No, there's no reimbursement to President Trump.
Well, that's
interesting.
Suit, Senator, so President Trump, you're going to assure us President Trump and his family will get no proceeds from this?
Correct. He will not.
He will not get. His family will not get.
Correct.
And who will direct the distribution of these? Who gets the money?
From the
right.
Victims Fund?
Yeah.
Well, there'll be a commission of 5 individuals that will be set up, and they will take in requests and claims and decide whether to do anything for Mission Apollo.
Who will name the commissioners?
I will. Or the Attorney General, whoever the Attorney General is.
The Attorney General. Okay.
Sorry, just to correct. And one of them will be done in consultation with leadership of this body.
Consultation. Well, that's good. But when he first announced this suit on January 30th, he said, I think what we'll do is something for charity, where I'll give the money to charity. I'm talking about the American Cancer Society. I would say established and respected charities. Will you fulfill the president's wish that it goes to respected charities?
I'm aware that he put that in or said that, but that's not ultimately what the settlement calls for.
Well, the settlement was negotiated between his lawyers and the Department of Justice, correct?
Correct.
So his lawyers did not urge that they adopt the president's vision of giving it to a respectable charity?
I am confident his lawyers urged the president's desires. Obviously, there's not a charity.
The order that you signed yesterday states that the government pay this settlement if the Secretary of Treasury has certified the payment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is it a coincidence that the General Counsel of the Department of Treasury resigned yesterday?
I don't know if it's a coincidence.
No. Have you looked or checked?
Have I checked?
Yeah.
I have not. As to why he resigned?
It just seems to be very coincidental that a high-ranking member of the Department of Treasury Senate confirmed would resign the day that the Treasury Department was required essentially to certify these payments.
Well, I believe the IRS signed the settlement agreement as well. But yes, but I can't speak to why he resigned, Senator.
Well, this all seems to be an obvious abuse of power by the Department of Justice, by the President. He negotiated essentially himself. You're his appointee. The IRS are his appointees. He's the plaintiff. And the American people, I don't think, are surprised that suddenly all this money is going to his friends or people that he, in his orbit. Will you ensure that none of this money goes to anyone convicted on the January 6th attack on the Congress?
Well, the commissioners will determine who is eligible to receive the money.
And who are the commissioners?
They're not named yet.
Who will name them?
I will, or the Attorney General will. It's not me.
So, with the suggestion of the President of the United States?
Excuse me?
With the suggestion of the President of the United States, your boss?
I do not make suggestions. I will.
No. He will make suggestions to you.
I have no idea if he will or not. I really don't. I have no idea if he will or not.
I would be shocked if he didn't tell you exactly who to put on, and I'd be more shocked if you did not put them on. This is a travesty of the law in the United States and the Constitution. You had an opportunity to go down and talk to Ghislaine Maxwell. And then a few days later, she was transferred from a high-security prison to a very comfortable.
I mean, that's
very
true.
comfortable.
It's just not true. She was not in a high-security prison. She was transferred from a low-security prison to a low-security prison. I mean, you're looking at me like that's verifiable.
Well, I don't think at the other prison she had her own room. She had access to a private shower. She could have pet therapy. And
I don't know if any of that is true. I'm not disagreeing with you.
It is true, and you should know it, Mr. Attorney
I should know that?
Should know.
Whether an inmate has access to her own shower?
No. This is a person of extra special interest to the President of the United States. He's known her. Why did he send you down to talk to her?
He didn't send me. I went. What do you mean? You think President Trump called and asked me to go interview a witness in federal prison? Honestly?
Yes, I do, frankly.
Well,
because you know why?
He didn't.
Because the deal was in. He needed somebody he could rely.
He
needed somebody he could rely upon to talk to her and say, what would she say if she was asked about Jeffrey Epstein? And you were the perfect choice. And you went down there, and suddenly, shazam, she's out of what is a more confining situation into a much more relaxed federal prison.
Every word that I asked her is recorded and available to you to review. If there's criticisms of the question that I asked her, go ahead and make them. But the president did not have anything to do with my choice to go interview Ms. Maxwell. If I wouldn't have went and a career would have went, you would have said, why didn't you go yourself? Just like you expect me to know whether she has access to her own shower.
You
so
should.
I did go.
Everyone in the United States who reads the newspapers know that. I guess you don't, read things like that. This whole hearing, I think, is exposing something, which is, to me, very frightening. You're a very gifted lawyer. But from my perspective, you have very little faith to the Constitution and the people of America, and you're the president's consigliere.
Your perspective is completely wrong, Senator, respectfully.
I think the facts will prove me right.
All right, let's talk about what we just witnessed, because there were several moments during this hearing that should matter to every American, regardless of whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent. Senator Jack Reed came prepared, and right out of the gate, he focused on the massive IRS data breach that occurred back in 2020. According to reports, more than 400,000 taxpayers had their sensitive tax information leaked. Among those individuals were Donald Trump and members of his family. Now, let's be fair here. Trump was a victim of that breach. Nobody seriously disputes that. If your private tax information gets stolen and exposed, you deserve justice. Period. That's not a left-wing position or a right-wing position. That's just common sense. Every American should agree on that. But Reed wasn't questioning whether Trump deserved justice. He was asking something much bigger. He raised a constitutional and ethical concern that I think deserves serious attention. When the President of the United States is both a victim in a case and also the head of the executive branch overseeing the agencies involved in resolving that case, how can Americans be certain there isn't a conflict of interest? That's a legitimate question. Throughout the hearing, Reid repeatedly pressed Todd Blanche about whether Donald Trump or members of his family would personally benefit financially from this settlement. Blanche was very clear. He said no. He said Trump and his family would not receive any proceeds. And if that's true, that's good news. But Reid wasn't done. He wanted to know exactly who would decide where the settlement money ultimately goes. And honestly, this is where the hearing became especially interesting. Blanche explained that a group of commissioners would be responsible for determining who receives compensation and how the money is distributed. Sounds straightforward enough until Reid asked the obvious follow-up question. Who appoints those commissioners? The answer, the Attorney General. And Reid's response was essentially, hold on a second, the Attorney General works for the President. So how independent is this process really? Again, these are fair questions. Public confidence in government depends on people believing decisions are being made impartially and not based on politics, personal relationships, or loyalty to powerful individuals. Frankly, after years of controversies involving both Democratic and Republican administrations, a healthy amount of congressional skepticism isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's exactly what oversight hearings are supposed to be about. Congress isn't there to hand out participation trophies. Congress is there to ask difficult questions, especially when taxpayer money and public trust are involved. Another moment that caught my attention involved the timing of a Treasury Department resignation. Reid pointed out that a senior Treasury official reportedly resigned on the same day certification for these settlement payments was required. Now, Blanche said he couldn't speak to why that official resigned, and that's perfectly reasonable. But from an oversight perspective, lawmakers are obviously going to ask whether the timing was simply coincidence or whether something else was going on. When senior officials leave during sensitive legal or financial proceedings, questions are inevitable. Washington has taught Americans to be suspicious of convenient timing. And honestly, Washington usually earns that suspicion. Then the hearing took a dramatic turn. Reid brought up Todd Blanche's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, and the temperature in the room immediately changed. This quickly became one of the most heated exchanges of the entire hearing. Reid suggested that Blanche's visit to interview Maxwell, followed by her subsequent prison transfer, created troubling optics. Blanche strongly pushed back, denying any improper involvement by President Trump and insisting that every question asked during the interview had been documented and could be reviewed. Personally, I think this is where transparency becomes absolutely essential. If everything was handled appropriately, then release the documentation, provide the timelines, and allow independent oversight to examine the facts. Because democracy doesn't function on trust alone. Democracy functions on verification. And honestly, that's the larger lesson from this entire hearing. Whether we're talking about Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or any future president, no administration should ever be above scrutiny. That's not anti-American. That's American. Patriotism isn't blind loyalty to politicians. Patriotism means defending institutions, demanding accountability, and ensuring that public officials answer tough questions. I also found it interesting that despite all the heated rhetoric, Blanche repeatedly insisted that the facts would ultimately vindicate him. Fair enough. Then let's see the facts. Because in a constitutional republic, evidence matters more than personalities, and transparency matters more than talking points. And if there's one principle Americans across the political spectrum should still be able to agree on, it's that government works best when it operates in the open. So what do you think? Did Senator Jack Reid raise legitimate concerns about ethics and accountability, or do you think Todd Blanche successfully answered those questions? Let me know in the comments below. I always read your thoughts. And if you enjoy independent Democratic commentary focused on facts, accountability, and protecting democratic institutions, make sure you subscribe to Olivia Hernandez, give this video a like, and share it with someone who cares about the future of American democracy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.